Hello everyone. Thank you all for watching the video and leaving meaningful comments. Wishing everyone good health and happiness. The gentle morning sunlight stretched across narrow paths leading to the bustling Highland market. The calls of vendors blended with the sounds of daily life, creating a vibrant and colorful scene. James and his friend leisurely entered a small roadside tea shop, where simple wooden tables and steaming cups of tea offered a peaceful respite amidst the lively atmosphere. While chatting, James's gaze drifted toward the market. He spotted me, a weary-looking woman with bruises on my face, walking alongside my mother-in-law and Mr. Pow. I had just purchased a few items and finished a bowl of noodles, preparing to leave the market. The sight of my bruised face stirred something in James, prompting him to leave his unfinished tea and quickly make his way toward me. Amidst the crowded market, James called out loudly, "Miss Ly Tu Diep. Are you okay? Who did this to you?" His voice was filled with concern, piercing through the noise of the marketplace. I froze upon hearing his familiar voice. Turning to face him, I lowered my head in silence, unable to respond. My mother-in-law noticed James's presence and approached us with a scowl. Her sharp voice echoed through the market. "What are you doing here? How dare you grab my daughter-in-law's hand? This is our family matter. It has nothing to do with outsiders." The tension escalated as her loud remarks drew the attention of onlookers. James refused to let go of my hand, his eyes reflecting anger and compassion. He pressed further. "Why was she beaten? Is this domestic violence?" Before he could finish, my mother-in-law interrupted harshly. "She is my daughter-in-law. I can do whatever I want." Her cutting words felt like daggers to my heart. Recognizing the growing tension, James's friend stepped in to de-escalate the situation. He gently pulled James aside and urged him, "We should leave now." Though reluctant, James had no choice but to walk away to avoid further conflict. I stood there watching his figure disappear into the bustling crowd. My mother-in-law continued her tirade beside me, her words dripping with cruelty. "Don't dream that anyone will save you. As a daughter-in-law in this family, you must know your place." Her harsh remarks cut deeply, but I could only lower my head and endure. Meanwhile, James and his friend left the market for a nearby pomelo orchard introduced by his companion. Despite the serene landscape of lush green pomelo trees, James's mind remained troubled by the image of my bruised face. Sitting under the shade of a tree with a freshly picked pomelo in hand, he felt helpless as he thought about the harsh reality I faced, a woman trapped under oppressive family rules and enduring silent suffering. In a rustic wooden meeting room, natural light filtered through the windows, creating an atmosphere that was both solemn and intimate. James sat at the center of the table, surrounded by the company's key employees. On the table, stacks of thick documents were neatly arranged as annual revenue reports were presented one by one. From agriculture to construction, all sectors showed promising results, yet James seemed unable to focus. The image of my bruised face kept replaying in his mind. He recalled my resigned expression and weary demeanor during that morning encounter at the market. The unease and worry weighed heavily on him, distracting him from the meeting. Despite his employees continuously presenting positive figures, James could not shake off the heavy feeling in his heart. As the meeting concluded and everyone left the room, James remained seated, leaning back in his chair with a distant gaze out of the window. After a few moments of contemplation, he stood up with a determined look in his eyes. He knew he could no longer ignore my plight. James quickly drove to the local police station to report my situation. In the compact yet formal office of a police officer, he recounted everything, from my bruised face to my mother-in-law's aggressive behavior at the market. His voice was filled with urgency. "I suspect this is a serious case of domestic violence. We need to do something to help her." Without hesitation, the officer agreed to accompany James to Mr. Pow's house, where I lived, to verify the situation. The car traveled along a red dirt road leading to a remote village, flanked by fields stretching under the evening sun. Upon arrival, they saw me returning from work in the fields, visibly exhausted, with bruises still evident on my face. Inside the modest wooden house, the officer questioned my mother-in-law about my condition. She responded coldly and unapologetically. I bought her for 2 buffaloes. If she doesn't work, who will? If she doesn't work, I'll beat her. If you want her free, pay me back. Her words left both the officer and James stunned. The officer looked at me with compassion before turning back to address her. This is clearly domestic violence. However, faced with her defiance, they left to explore other ways to resolve the issue. As their car disappeared down the red dirt road, I stood frozen in place watching them leave with a deep sense of despair. After leaving Mr. Powell's house with a heavy heart, James and the police officer visited my uncle's home. The small house, tucked behind clusters of trees, was simple yet warm. My uncle sat on an old wooden chair, his eyes filled with sorrow as he listened to James recount my situation. Poor Diepp has suffered so much, but I don't have the money to buy her freedom, my uncle said, his voice choking with emotion. James remained silent for a moment before speaking resolutely. I'll cover the cost to free her. You just need to step forward and take her back. His words left my uncle stunned. After a few seconds of disbelief, he nodded in agreement, his eyes glimmering with hope. Without delay, the 3, James, the police officer, and my uncle, set out together to resolve the matter. The car rolled along the red dirt road leading to the village. Fields stretched on both sides under the twilight sky, but everyone's hearts were weighed down by their thoughts. Upon arriving at Mr. Powell's house, my mother-in-law maintained her cold demeanor as before. She sat on a chair in the middle of the house, looking at the 3 visitors with a challenging gaze. If you want to take her back, bring me the money, she said sharply. Without hesitation, James pulled out a cloth bag filled with cash and placed it on the table. This is the full amount you spent to buy her, he said firmly but calmly. My mother-in-law eyed the bag greedily and meticulously counted each bill. Once satisfied that it was correct, she gestured dismissively toward me. Fine, take her if you want. I stood in the corner of the house, clutching my golden dog, the only companion I had during my painful days. Hearing her words, I could hardly believe that I was about to be free. My uncle approached me and held my hand gently, his voice trembling. Diepp, come home with me. I looked at him and broke down into uncontrollable sobs, tears streaming down as years of suppressed anguish poured out. James stepped closer and softly said, you won't have to endure this anymore. He took my dog from my arms and led me out of the house that had imprisoned my life for so long. Outside, night had begun to fall. James's car waited by the roadside as if ready to take me toward a new life. As I got into the car, I glanced back at the house one last time, a place that had been nothing short of hell for me. Though nervous about what lay ahead, hope filled my heart. On the way back to my uncle's home, my golden dog lay peacefully in my lap as if sensing its owner's joy. My uncle sat beside me, his eyes glistening with happiness knowing that his niece was finally free from suffering. James drove with a calm expression but his eyes reflected care and responsibility. When we arrived at my uncle's house, everyone in the family rejoiced at seeing me return. Laughter and cheerful voices shattered the gloom that had hung over them for so long. James accompanied me and my dog to the small house where I used to live. Standing before it brought back a flood of memories so overwhelming that I collapsed in tears and fainted on the spot. After I fainted in front of the small house, James quickly carried me inside. The modest home, furnished with only a few old items, was dimly lit, but his eyes were filled with worry. Without hesitation, he called a doctor to check on my condition. In the faint glow of an oil lamp, the doctor carefully examined me and concluded, she's simply exhausted from extreme fatigue and stress. Let her rest and ensure she eats well. Hearing this, James wasted no time. He immediately went out to buy rice and beans to prepare porridge himself. In the small kitchen, he lit a fire with dry wood, the flickering flames illuminating his determined face. The sound of boiling water crackled in the quiet space, accompanied only by the soft rustling of the wind through the cracks in the door. He stirred the pot of porridge carefully, each movement reflecting his thoughtfulness. When I woke up, the first thing I noticed was the comforting aroma of hot porridge filling the house. James sat beside me, gently feeding me spoonfuls of porridge. "You need to eat to regain your strength," he said in a warm yet concerned tone. I looked at him, overwhelmed with emotion, gratitude and deep appreciation for a man who had been a stranger to me not long ago. After I finished eating, he handed me medicine and encouraged me to rest on the small bed. As I lay down, my eyes followed him as he busied himself by the fire. That night, he stayed awake to brew herbal medicine for me to take in the morning. The soft glow of the fire reflected on his face, making the modest home feel brighter and warmer amidst the cold night. I watched as he meticulously prepared everything, from measuring water to timing the brewing process, all done with care and precision. His dedication made me feel a warmth I hadn't experienced in years. By early morning, when the medicine was ready, James carefully placed it on the table and sat beside my bed. He didn't say much, his eyes conveyed encouragement and hope that I would recover soon. In that moment, this small house became a haven of compassion and kindness, something I never thought I would receive. James's actions not only helped me recover from exhaustion but also brought a glimmer of light into my dark life. That long night marked a significant turning point, a moment that symbolized hope and transformation for a woman who had endured so much pain and despair.